The ship was quiet as it moved through the darkness of space. Una Park stood near the window and watched the massive space station grow larger. This was the Galactic Assembly, the place where all the great species of the galaxy came together. Today, humanity would ask to join them. Una was nervous, but she did not show it. She had trained for this moment for 10 years. Behind her stood Captain Taiho Kim, a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He was the head of security for the human delegation. "You ready?" Taiho asked. Una took a deep breath. "I have to be." The Galactic Assembly was old. It's very old. It had existed for 12,000 cycles before humans ever left Earth. The species here had traveled between stars when humans were still living in caves. They had built empires and fought wars and made peace long before humanity learned to make fire. When the human ship docked, Una walked through halls made of crystal and light. Strange beings moved around her. Some had many legs. Some floated in the air. Some were made of pure energy. All of them looked at the humans with curious eyes. Some looked amused. Others looked bored. The council chamber was a massive room at the center of the station. 12 seats rose in a circle, each one holding a representative of the most powerful species in the galaxy. The Valari High Speaker sat at the highest seat. His body was made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Una walked to the center of the room. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. "I am Ambassador Una Park," she said clearly. "I speak for Earth and all of humanity. We come here today to ask for trade partnership with the Galactic Assembly." She had prepared a long speech. She talked about human history. She talked about human achievements. She talked about what humanity could offer to the galaxy. Medicine, technology, art, music, trade goods. The council listened in silence. Una felt hope growing in her chest. Maybe they were impressed. Maybe they would accept. Then the Valari High Speaker raised one crystalline hand. "Una, stop speaking," the speaker said. His voice was like wind through glass. "We have heard enough," Una waited. "Your species is interesting," the speaker continued. "You have traveled far to reach us. This shows some determination. But determination is not enough," another council member spoke. This one was a massive creature covered in thick armor. "Your kind has no psionic powers. You cannot speak mind to mind. You cannot move objects with thought." Third member joined in. This one looked like a cloud of smoke with glowing eyes. "You have no natural weapons. No armor, no venom, no claws. Your bodies are soft and weak." The Valari speaker nodded slowly. "You are fragile creatures. Clever, perhaps, but fragile." Una felt her face grow hot. "With respect, we have achieved much despite your limitations." "Yes," the speaker interrupted. "But the galaxy is a dangerous place. We cannot give full partnership to a species that may not survive its first century among the stars." Laughter filled the chamber. It was strange laughter, clicks and whistles and rumbles from a dozen different species. But Una understood it perfectly. They were mocking her. Mocking humanity. "We will grant you limited trade access," the speaker said when the laughter faded. "You may trade through intermediary species only. You will pay triple the standard tariffs. Your ships are banned from entering core systems. Your technology will be reviewed and monitored." Una stood very still. "Those terms are not fair." "Those terms are generous," the speaker replied coldly. "For a species of your level." Taiho watched from the observation deck above. His hands were closed into tight fists. He saw Una standing alone in that huge chamber, surrounded by beings who saw her as nothing more than a clever animal. He wanted to shout. He wanted to fight. But there was nothing he could do. The alien fleets numbered in the millions. Their weapons could destroy planets. Humanity had perhaps 100 ships that could fight. Una returned to the human ship without saying another word. Her face was calm, but her eyes were dark with anger. That night she called a meeting. Admiral Minho Choi was there. He was an old soldier with white hair and a scarred face. Director Suji Han was there too. She ran the Earth's Interstellar Commerce Bureau and understood trade better than anyone alive. "They humiliated us," Taiho said. His voice was low and angry. They did, Yuna agreed. So what do we do? Minho asked. We cannot fight them. Their military power is beyond anything we can match. One of their battle fleets could destroy Earth in an hour. I know, Yuna said quietly. Suji had been silent until now. She was looking at a holographic display of the galaxy. Trade routes glowed like spiderwebs connecting thousands of worlds. Fighting is not the only option, Suji said. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Taiho asked. Suji touched the display and lines began to highlight in different colors. Look at these routes. 60% of all non-military cargo in this galaxy is moved by human freight captains. Our ships are cheaper. Our crews are more reliable. Our delivery times are better. She touched another section. Human engineers maintain 40% of the jump gate network. The other species consider such work beneath them. They never learned how to do it themselves. Another touch. Human medicine treats 17 different species for chronic diseases. Our doctors developed cures that alien scientists could not. Minho leaned forward. What are you saying? Suji looked at each of them with calm, cold eyes. They think we need them. They have no idea how much they need us. So what do we do? Yuna asked. Suji smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They told us we are unwanted. They told us we are inferior. They made it clear that we do not belong here. She turned off the display. The room fell into shadow, so we give them what they want. We leave. All of us. Every human in the galaxy. We go home, and we close the door behind us. Taiho stared at her. Just leave. Without a fight, without even a threat. No threats, Suji said. No war, we simply walk away. And then we wait. Wait for what? Minho asked. Suji's smile grew wider. For them to realize what they have lost. The plan began slowly. That was the key. It had to be slow. It had to be quiet. No announcements. No warnings. No dramatic speeches. Dr. Heijin Lee was the chief economist of Earth's Strategic Council. He was a thin man with glasses and a soft voice, but his mind was sharper than any blade. For 3 months, he studied every piece of data he could find about galactic trade. He mapped every dependency, every connection, every thread that tied the galaxy together, and what he found made him smile. They have no idea, he told the Council of Nations. They truly have no idea how much they rely on us. He showed them the numbers. Human freight captains moved cargo because they were cheaper and faster. Alien captains charged more and worked less. Human engineers maintained the jump gates because the work was difficult and dirty. The proud alien species thought such labor was beneath them. Human doctors had developed medicines that worked better than anything the aliens had created in 10,000 years. They call us primitive, Hijan said. But primitive humans have become the backbone of their civilization. Without us, they will fall. General Nari Kong took command of the withdrawal. She was a small woman, with short gray hair and eyes like stone. She had fought in 3 wars on Earth before joining the space program. She knew how to plan. She knew how to execute. And she knew how to keep secrets. This is a military operation, she told her team. But we will fire no weapons. We will make no threats. We will simply leave. The first phase was the workers. Human engineers and technicians working on alien stations were quietly recalled to Earth. Their contracts were allowed to expire. When alien managers asked for renewals, the humans politely declined. Personal reasons, they would say. Or family matters. Or simply, I have decided to return home. Lieutenant Jiwoo Beek commanded a fleet of 12 cargo ships in the Valari sector. She had worked these routes for 15 years. She knew every station master, every dock worker, every customs officer. They considered her a friend. When the recall order came, she gathered her crew. We are going home, she said. All of us. Every ship. Her navigator, Yunji Seo, looked worried. What about our contracts? We have obligations. The Valari will be angry. Jiwoo's face showed nothing. The Valari made it clear that we are not welcome here. that we are inferior, that we do not deserve equal treatment. She looked at each member of her crew. Some were young, some were old. All of them had been treated as lesser beings by the aliens they served. We are simply respecting their wishes, Jiwoo said. If we are so inferior, then surely they do not need us. The ships left that night. 12 vessels carrying crews of 800 humans. They did not say goodbye. They did not explain. They simply powered up their engines and flew toward the distant light of Earth's sun. The second phase was the businesses. Human companies had spread across the galaxy. Banks, hospitals, entertainment studios, technology firms. One by one, they closed their off-world branches. Internal restructuring, the official announcement said. We are focusing on our home market. The aliens barely noticed at first. Humans were a small species after all, one of hundreds in the galaxy. Their departure was noted in business reports. But no one thought it was important. Director Suji-han watched the progress from her office on Earth. Maps covered the walls, each one showing human presence shrinking across the galaxy, like a tide going out. Phase 3, she said into her communicator. Begin. The final phase was the border. Earth had claimed a small region of space near the edge of the galaxy. It was not rich in resources. It was not strategically important. The great powers had allowed humanity to settle there because no one else wanted it. Now that border became a wall. Admiral Minho Choi commanded the defense fleet. His ships took position at every entry point to human space. They were not warships, not really. They were patrol vessels and cargo escorts and exploration craft armed with light weapons. But they did not need to fight. They only needed to watch. No alien vessels beyond this point, Minho ordered. Any ship attempting to enter will be warned once, then turned back, and if they refuse, his second officer asked. They won't refuse, Minho said. They don't care enough about us to force their way in. He was right. A few alien ships approached the border in those first weeks. They were curious, nothing more. When they were told that human space was closed to outsiders, they simply shrugged and flew away. Strange creatures, one Valari captain reported. They seem to be having some kind of internal crisis. It is not our concern. Within 6 months, every human had returned to Earth space. The recall was complete. 60 million humans who had worked and lived among the stars were now home. Ambassador Doyoung Kwan was the last to leave. He had served as humanity's diplomatic representative to the Galactic Assembly for 20 years. He had smiled through insults. He had nodded through dismissals. He had watched his people be treated like animals over and over again. Before his ship departed, he sent a single message to the Valari High Speaker. You made it clear that we were unwanted. You told us that we were inferior, primitive, fragile. You showed us that we would never be accepted as equals in your galaxy. He paused, then continued. We have honored your assessment of our worth. We have removed ourselves from your presence so that we will no longer offend you with our inferiority. Please do not contact us. We wish only to be left alone. He ended with 2 words. Goodbye forever. The message was received. The Valari High Speaker read it and laughed. Good riddance, he said. The humans have finally learned their place. Let them hide in their corner of the galaxy. We are better off without them, the other council members agreed. There was some brief discussion about the trade disruption, but everyone assumed it would be minor. Other species would fill the gaps. Other workers would take the jobs. Other ships would carry the cargo. Everything would continue as before. They were wrong. The first problem appeared 3 weeks after the humans left, the Valari. Colony on Tharis Prime was a beautiful world of crystal mountains and silver seas. 2 million Valari lived there, mining rare minerals and sending them to the homeworld. The colony was connected to the rest of the empire by a single jump gate, the jump gate. Stopped working on a quiet morning, the station master, a young Valari named Keth, stared at the error messages filling his screens. The gate had simply shut down. Power was flowing, but nothing was happening. Get the engineers, Keth ordered. The engineers came. They were Valari engineers, trained in their great universities. proud of their superior intellect. They studied the gate for 3 days. They ran tests. They consulted ancient manuals. They argued with each other. They could not fix it. "This is human technology," one engineer finally admitted. His crystal body had dimmed with shame. "The core systems were designed and installed by humans. We never learned how they work." "Then learn now," Keth demanded. "It would take years. Maybe decades." The humans did not share their secrets. Keth felt cold fear spreading through his body. "Then contact the humans. Pay them whatever they want. You cannot contact them. They have closed their borders. They are not responding to any messages." 3 weeks later, the food ran out. Supply ships could not reach Theres Prime without the jump gate. 2 million Volari began to starve. This was only the beginning. Trade. Minister Yunho Shin sat in his office on Earth and watched the galaxy fall apart. His walls were covered with screens showing news from 100 worlds. Every screen showed disaster. The Koreth Imperium had been the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Their armies had conquered 1,000 worlds. Their fleets had destroyed countless enemies. They feared nothing. But they had one weakness. 300 years ago, a plague had swept through their species. It was not deadly, but it was chronic. Every Koreth needed daily medication to control the symptoms. Without the medication, they became weak, confused, unable to function. Human doctors had developed that medication. Human factories had produced it. Human ships had delivered it. Now the medicine was gone. The plague came back with terrible speed. Koreth warriors who had once crushed entire armies now lay in their beds, unable to move. Koreth scientists who had designed weapons of mass destruction could not remember their own names. The great Imperium, feared by all, was helpless. Millions died in the first month. Millions more would follow. The Makari Syndicate had been the economic heart of the galaxy. Their banks held the wealth of 1,000 species. Their financial systems processed trillions of transactions every day. Those systems had been built by human programmers when the humans left. They took their knowledge with them. The Makari did not have the passwords. They did not have the source code. They did not understand how anything worked. One morning, the entire Makari financial network crashed. Every account was locked. Every transaction was frozen. Trillions in wealth became worthless numbers that no one could access. The Makari economy did not slow down. It stopped completely. Yunho watched a video of riots in the Makari capital. Thousands of aliens fighting in the streets, their society collapsing around them. He felt nothing. "They did this to themselves," he said quietly. President Hannah Yoon stood beside him. She was an older woman with kind eyes and gray hair. But today her eyes were sad. "I did not want this," she said. "I did not want them to suffer." "Neither did we," Yunho replied. "But they chose to treat us as lesser beings. We simply stopped helping them. The consequences are their own." Hannah watched the screens. Famines, plagues, wars, governments falling, worlds dying. How long will this continue? "As long as they refuse to change," Yunho said. In the Galactic Assembly, panic had replaced arrogance. The council chamber that had once echoed with laughter now echoed with screaming, "Where are the humans?" The Volari High Speaker demanded. "Why have they abandoned their duties?" "They had no duties," another council member said quietly. "We never made them partners. We made them servants. And servants can choose to leave and force them to return. Send the fleets." The military commander, a massive armored Korath, shook his head slowly. "What fleets? Half our crews are sick with the plague. Our ships cannot fly without medication for the pilots. And even if we could reach human space, their borders are defended. Any attack would be a war? Then declare war." "Against what?" the Koreth asked bitterly. "The humans did nothing wrong. They made no threats. They broke no laws. They simply left. We cannot declare war on a species for going home." The High Speaker's crystal body flickered with rage. "There must be something we can do." Silence filled the chamber. No one had an answer. On Earth, Ambassador Una Park sat in her garden, and looked up at the stars. 3 years had passed since her humiliation in the council chamber. 3 years since the great species of the galaxy had laughed at her. They were not laughing now. Her assistant, a young man named Junho, brought her tea. "Another message from the Valari," he said. "They are begging for help. The same as yesterday. The same as every day for the past 6 months." Yuna sipped her tea. It was good tea. Earth had many good things. Clean air, fresh water, peaceful cities. Her people were happy here. What should I tell them? Junho asked. Why? Yuna thought for a long moment. She remembered standing alone in that chamber. She remembered the laughter. She remembered the casual cruelty of beings who thought themselves superior. "Tell them nothing," she said finally. "Let them wait a little longer." Junho nodded and left. Why Yuna looked up at the stars again. Somewhere out there, empires were falling. Species that had mocked humanity for being fragile were learning a hard truth. True strength was not about weapons or armies or psionic powers. True strength was about building things that others could not build, creating things that others could not create, being so useful, so essential, so necessary that your absence would break the world. Humanity had built that strength over centuries. And now, for the first time, the galaxy understood what it meant. The humans had not fired a single shot. They had not made a single threat. They had simply walked away, and the galaxy was dying without them. 3 years changed everything. The Valari homeworld had once glowed like a jewel among the stars. Its crystal cities had shined with blue and silver light. Its people had walked with pride and confidence, knowing they were the greatest species in the galaxy. Now the cities were dark. The crystals had lost their glow. The Valari who walked the streets moved slowly, their bodies dim and weak. The new High Speaker was young. He had risen to power after the old speaker died of shame and starvation. His name was Velen, and he understood something that his predecessor never had. The Valari had been fools. "We must go to the humans," Velen told his council. "We must apologize." The older council members reacted with shock. Apologize? To those primitive creatures? We are Valari. We do not apologize to lesser beings. Velen's crystal body flashed with anger. Look around you. Look at our dying world. Those lesser beings kept us alive, and we never knew it. We mocked them while they fed us. We laughed at them while they healed us. We called them primitive while they maintained the technology we could not understand. He pointed toward the dark sky. 4 of our colony worlds are dead. Millions of our people have starved. And why? Because we were too proud to learn how a jump gate works. Because we considered such work beneath us. The council was silent. The humans did not attack us, Velen continued. They did not threaten us. They did not steal from us. They simply stopped helping us. And without their help, we are nothing. One old council member spoke softly. What if they refuse to listen? Then we are doomed, Velen said simply. But I would rather die trying to make peace than die pretending we were never wrong. The Valari ship was small and old. It was the only vessel they could still operate without human technology. It moved slowly through space. Taking months to reach the border of human territory, Commander Sunwoo Park saw the ship on his sensors long before it arrived. He was a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a patient heart. He had commanded the border patrol for 3 years. Turning away curious aliens and desperate refugees, this was the first time a Valari ship had come. Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Park of the Earth Defense Force. State your purpose. The response came in a voice that trembled with fear and hope. I am High Speaker Velen of the Valari people. I come alone, without weapons, without demands. I seek only one thing. What is that? Forgiveness? Sunwoo was quiet for a long moment. He had heard many things from alien ships over the years. Threats, bribes, lies, but never this. Never a proud alien admitting fault. Hold your position, he said finally. I will contact my superiors. On Earth, President Hannah Yoon received the message in the middle of the night. She sat in her office and read it 3 times, making sure she understood. "They want to apologize," she said softly. Her advisor, Admiral Hunwushin, stood nearby. He was a hard man who had spent his life preparing for war. It could be a trick, perhaps, Hannah agreed. But perhaps not. She called an emergency meeting of her council. They gathered in the great hall as the sun rose over the mountains outside. "The Valari have come to us," Hannah announced. "They're high speakers waiting at our border. He says he wants to make peace." The reactions were mixed. Some were suspicious. Some were angry. Some were hopeful. Councilwoman Mingyo spoke first. She was in charge of humanitarian affairs and had spent 3 years monitoring the suffering in the galaxy. "They are dying out there. Hundreds of millions have already died. We have the power to save them." Admiral Shin shook his head. "They had the power to treat us with basic respect. They chose not to. Why should we help them now?" "Because that is who we are," Minji replied. "We are not them. We do not let people die because of wounded pride." "It is not about pride," Shin argued. "It is about justice. They humiliated us. They treated us like animals. Now they face the consequences of their arrogance." The debate continued for hours. Voices rose and fell. Arguments went back and forth. No one could agree. Finally, Dr. Jae-won Lim spoke. He was the oldest member of the council, a man who had been born before humanity ever reached the stars. His voice was soft, but everyone listened. "I have lived a long time," he said. "I have seen many conflicts, many wars, many cycles of hatred and revenge." He looked around the room with ancient, wise eyes. "The question is not whether they deserve our help. Maybe they do. Maybe they do not. The question is simpler than that." He paused. "Who do we want to be?" Silence filled the hall. "We can be like them. We can hold on to our anger. We can watch them die and call it justice. We can become the cold, cruel species that they thought we were." He shook his head slowly. "Or we can be better. We can show them what true strength looks like. Not the strength of weapons. Not the strength of revenge. The strength of mercy. The strength of choosing to help even when we have every reason not to." He turned to President Hannah. "That is the choice, Madam President. What kind of species do we want to be?" Hannah was quiet for a long time. She thought about Yuna standing alone in that council chamber. She thought about the laughter. She thought about 3 years of silence while the galaxy burned. And then she thought about her daughter, who was 5 years old and loved to look at the stars. What kind of galaxy did she want her daughter to inherit? "Bring them to the table," Hannah said finally. "All of them. Every species that wants to talk, we will listen to what they have to say." She stood and looked out the window at the rising sun. "We left because they gave us no choice. But if they have truly changed, if they are truly ready to see us as equals, then perhaps it is time to return." Admiral Shin looked unhappy, but nodded. "As you command, Madam President." Hannah turned back to face her council. "Send a message to the Valeri ship. Tell the High Speaker that we will meet with him, not as masters and servants, not as superiors and inferiors, but as equals." She paused. "And tell him that if he truly wants forgiveness, he must first prove that he understands what he did wrong." The Galactic Assembly had not met in 3 years. The great chamber had fallen silent after the human departure. Its halls had gathered dust. Its lights had dimmed. Now it was alive again. Ships from 100 worlds gathered around the station. Valari and Korath and Makari and dozens of other species came together for the first time since the collapse. They came with empty hands and humble hearts. They came because humanity had finally agreed to listen. Ambassador Soyoung Moon walked through the same halls that Yuna Park had walked years ago. She was younger than Yuna, with dark hair and steady eyes. Behind her came a delegation of 50 human scientists, doctors, engineers, diplomats. The council chamber was full. Every seat was taken. Every species was represented. But unlike before, no one sat higher than anyone else. The raised platforms had been removed. Everyone was at the same level. This had been humanity's first condition. So Young stood at the center of the room. She looked around at the alien faces watching her. Some were still proud. Some were ashamed. Most were simply tired. 3 years ago, she began. Ambassador Park stood in this room and asked for partnership. She offered humanity's help. She offered our medicine, our technology, our labor. She asked only for respect in return. She paused. You laughed at her. Silence was heavy. Many aliens looked away, unable to meet her eyes. You called us primitive. You called us fragile. You called us inferior. You treated us as servants, as animals, as something less than yourselves. Soyoung's voice was calm but firm. We did not want war. We did not want revenge. We did not want you to suffer. We simply wanted to be treated as equals. When you made it clear that would never happen, we left. She gestured around the room. Look at what our absence did to your galaxy. Your jump gates failed. Your medicine ran out. Your economies collapsed. Your people died by the millions. High Speaker Velen stood. His crystal body was dim, but his voice was strong. We understand now. We were wrong. We were blind. Soyoung agreed. Can you forgive us? Soyoung looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the other species in the room, the Korath military leader, still weak from the plague. The Makari trademaster, whose economy was still in ruins. Dozens of others who had once mocked humanity. We are not here for revenge, she said. We never wanted your suffering. We left because you gave us no choice. But we return because that is who we are. She stepped forward. Humans are builders. We build ships and cities and medicines. We build connections between worlds. We build solutions to problems that others cannot solve. She spread her hands. Could have let you die. We could have watched your civilizations collapse and called it justice. Some of our people wanted exactly that. She shook her head. But that is not who we are. We are also healers. We are helpers. When we see people in pain, we want to help even if those people once hurt us. Velen's crystal body flickered with emotion. You are better than we deserve. Perhaps, Soyoung said. But we do not help because you deserve it. We help because we believe it is right. She looked around the room one more time. We will share our medicine. Your plagues will be cured. We will repair your jump gates. Your colonies will be reconnected. We will help rebuild your economies. Your people will eat again. The relief in the room was almost physical. Aliens who had been holding their breath finally let it go. But Soyoung continued, and her voice became hard. Things will be different now. The room tensed. Not because we demand it. Not because we threaten you, but because you have learned something important. She pointed at Velen. You called us fragile. You were wrong. We survived everything the universe threw at us. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. We survived because we are stubborn and clever, and we never give up. She pointed at the Korath leader. You called us weak. You were wrong. True strength is not about weapons or armor. It is about building things that matter. It is about being so essential that your absence breaks the world. She lowered her hand. You have learned that lesson. The question is whether you will remember it. Velen stepped forward. We will remember. I swear it on behalf of my people. Never again will we treat any species as inferior. Never again will we mistake pride for strength. One by one, the other species spoke. The Korath, the Makari, dozens of others. Each one promised to change. Each one admitted their mistakes. Each one asked for a second chance. When they were finished, Soyoung smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Then let us begin again. The years that followed were hard but hopeful. Human ships returned to the stars. Human doctors healed the sick. Human engineers repaired the broken gates. Human traders restored the flow of goods. But this time, things were different. Human workers were paid fairly. Human ideas were respected. Human representatives sat as equals on the Galactic Council, not because anyone was afraid of humanity, Not because anyone needed them so desperately anymore, but because everyone finally understood what the humans had known all along. Every species had value. Every species had something to offer. The galaxy was stronger when everyone worked together, when no one was treated as less. 10 years after the return, old Captain Tai-Ho Kim stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel New Dawn. His hair was white now, and his face was lined with age. But his eyes were still calm, still patient. His young aide, Lieutenant Heron Cho, stood beside him. Through the window, they watched human and alien ships flying together, trading together, building together. "Do you think they have really changed?" Heron asked. Tai-Ho thought about the question. He thought about Eunice standing alone in that chamber. He thought about the years of silence. He thought about the suffering and the healing and the slow building of trust. "I think they learned something," he said finally. "Whether they remember it forever, that is up to them. And if they forget," Tai-Ho smiled, "then we remind them. Not with weapons. Not with threats. Just by being who we are. By building things that matter. By being essential." He looked out at the stars. "That is the human way. We do not conquer. We do not destroy. We build. And when people forget our value, we simply walk away until they remember." Heron nodded slowly. "And then we come back," as Tai-Ho said. "We always come back. Because helping others is who we are. It is what makes us human." Stars glittered before them, countless worlds bound together by something stronger than fear. By respect, earned and freely given. And somewhere in the great darkness of space, the story of humanity was still being written. A story of builders and healers. A story of patience and strength. A story of walking away and coming back. A story that would never end.